I'm Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium. I'm here with you to explore your intuition, the supernatural, and self-empowerment. This is Third Eyesight. Happy podcast episode day. I just made that holiday up. I don't know what else to say at the beginning of an episode other than how are you? Hope you're doing well, and happy podcast episode day. I need to make up or come up with another greeting for the podcast. But anyways, awkwardness aside, just a quick reminder that if you want to become part of a free mediumship group reading for the podcast that will be recorded, audio and video for the podcast, please go to juanfranciscospirit.com/podcast group. Submit your information. You'll be the first to hear about it once I schedule it and put the details together. And I hope to see you there. So I wanted to talk about something that I think it's still a little taboo in mediumship world. And in the spirit of being obsessed with Reddit's mediums subreddit for podcast episode ideas, like literally, I don't know if this is a cop-out of me, like if I'm using this as a cop-out, but it really is a great place to get podcast episode ideas because they're interesting topics. And I'm sorry, but coming up with topics, like thinking of topics for the podcast is not easy unless I have an interview or something recent happens in my life to inspire it. It's not easy to come up with episode ideas. So in the Medium subreddit on Reddit, the username is sensitiveyam143. And they said, I just had my first medium experience. The ability runs in my family, and I always thought it skipped me. I was driving home today, and I had a message about Father's Day. I wasn't really listening, so that's all I caught. I knew it was one of my friend's dad. I got home and told my mom, and she told me to try to ask him what he wants to tell her. I saw a picture of what I presume is her at a park, and then he gave me a message about what he wanted her to know. She told me that the description fits her as a kid and that this was the first Father's Day she decided to visit his grave, and she's been asking for a message from him. It's surreal to have it confirmed by her because it almost feels like I'm making it all up. That's beautiful. That is a beautiful message and such a cool experience for someone to have for their first mediumship experience. That's just amazing. And the idea that, it runs in my family, but it skipped me. I sometimes wondered if that was my case because my father has psychic ability. His grandfather has psychic ability too. And I thought maybe it's going to skip me. Maybe it did. I have a sibling who definitely has the ability. And so, maybe it's not for me. But here I am. So, that last line though, the second half of that last line, because it almost feels like I'm making it all up. Let's talk about that. And here is the faux pas, the taboo in mediumship that no one really talks about. I dedicated one episode quite some time ago. I think it was 2024 in the fall, I think, to my review of the documentary Look Into My Eyes, which included several folks that I've interviewed on the podcast. Nikenya Hall and Ilka Pinero, both folks that I've interviewed on Third Eyesight. They were both in the documentary, and it was a great documentary because it showed a very human side to mediumship, reminding us that psychic mediums and psychics are humans at the end of the day. They have their struggles, they have their hangups, they have their insecurities. And one of the mediums, and I feel comfortable sharing this, I feel like it's okay to share this because this is now well-known knowledge in my social circles. His name is Perrin. Perrin is a psychic medium who used to be based in New York City, and now I think he's living in Europe. And he was in Look Into My Eyes. And his story, his experience resonated so much with me because I believe, if I remember correctly, I need to watch the documentary again. It's on HBO Max, actually, so you can watch it. And I think it's, if you have A24, if you're a member, you can also stream it. But I know it's an A24 movie, and it is on HBO Max. But Perrin shared about low self esteem and struggling with his sexuality and struggling with fully believing in his ability, because when they asked him, like, how sure are you of the information you're getting that it's really from spirit? And he goes, oh, I doubt it all the time. I'm always doubting it. And when he said that, I thought, wow, that is so real of him to admit that. And yet he's doing this work that's healing for people. And what I was going to get to about the link to my social circles is my mediumship circle that I'm a part of every other Tuesday now. He used to go to that. The facilitator, Kristen, whom I've also had on the Third Eyesight podcast, when I told her about the documentary, she goes, oh, yeah, Perrin is in the movie, and he used to come to Circle. I thought, oh, my God, how cool. How cool. And she interviewed him on her podcast, Medium Mystic. And I just thought that was so real of him. And it really, between remembering that part of the documentary and him sharing that and this Reddit post, that last phrase, because sometimes I think I'm making it all up, I want to talk about it. Because if you were to ask me, Juan, are you 100% sure after every reading that what you just did was real? I would tell you I'm 95% sure. 93, 92. Because there's still a part of me that thinks, am I making this all up? Is this all coming from somewhere else? But I can't be making it up, because I'm saying things, and I have to say, as a psychic medium, I go into detail. I get very specific. I want spirit to be specific for me. I don't want just generic, they're handing you red roses because they love you, period. No, I need this red roses to symbolize something or to mean something. Usually. Depends. If they're going to say red roses because I love you, fine. But now follow it up with something. Let's do this. Follow it up with something that's going to be specific, that's unique to this person's relationship with this soul. I like specificity. So I know that I'm not making this stuff up, because specific things are coming up in my readings for people, and it resonates with them, and it hits them, and it lets them know that their loved one is with them. So I know I'm not making it up. But there's always that human side to me that's like, but I want proof. This is not enough proof. As if the first time I realized my abilities with the soul of Ryan for Natalie Namaste, it's as if that wasn't enough, right? Something that Hannah McIntyre, Mediumship Matters, has said before in the way past on her podcast is, she says, I miss the beginning of the journey when everything was so exciting and so, like, everything was so wondrous and awe-striking. And I get it, because and I include you, listener, in this, when we first embark on an exciting spiritual journey, we're like on cloud nine. And then we get used to it. We start to take it for granted because it becomes normal. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's normal that maybe it's a good thing that it becomes normal, because it is normal. But there's always still that voice sometimes that says, but is this real? Is this legit? There are quite a few readings I've done on Instagram Live that you can go back and watch if you have the patience. I don't expect anybody to. Where it's really specific things come up and they wow me. I'll never forget the taco truck story. It's one of the Instagram Live readings that I've published to my podcast, where a grandmother talks about, I think it was her grandmother talks about taco trucks. And in the middle of all this channeling and different messages coming from spirit, I bring up, do taco trucks mean anything to you? And this young woman freaks out, freaks out. And she goes to taco trucks like 4 to 5 times a week. It's a big part of her lifestyle and her food habits is to go to taco trucks and eat Mexican food and support those businesses. Hello? Taco trucks? Hello? Like, what are the odds? And that's what keeps me going, is I think, what are the odds of me bringing this up and it makes so much sense for them? And there are times when I bring something up and I have no idea why it's being brought up. It just happened tonight. I just did a reading for a client, a mediumship reading for a client tonight, and I told them, I don't know what this means, but I'm just gonna say it. It does. I don't know what this means, and it took some work on the part of me and my client to kind of unpack what spirit was saying. I don't like to make my clients work. That's not my goal of a reading, but sometimes it does help when the client helps me figure out, because it means something to them usually. And we got there in a roundabout way. I'll share it, and I won't share the person's name, obviously, for privacy reasons. But I was channeling this client's grandparents, and these grandparents were big travelers, and um, the the grandfather was quite the planner, liked to navigate, and this client and their partner were going to go on a they had plans to go on a trip soon, and I told them, I said, your grandparents, they want to say something about your partner. And I started feeling like there was something quirky or something they wanted to sort of criticize. But then they had me tell them, the client, well, first, your grandparents want to say that they really like your boyfriend. Like, they love your boyfriend. And they go, "Oh, okay, cool." But then they also want to share something quirky about your boyfriend. And I don't know what it is. Some kind of quirk when he travels. I don't know if it's something weird. The way he travels, the way he packs, something about the way he travels, it's just like off or quirky to them. Like something that would make you think, oh, I've never met anyone who travels that way, or oh, that's kind of interesting or weird. And it took us like a moment, but they said, well, my boyfriend, he's the type of person that he won't get the tickets for something, for like an event or an experience, until the day of the experience or event. Like, he doesn't do it in advance. And I told them, well, that would make me stressed out. And then I told them, I think this is what your grandparents are getting at. And it's interesting how your grandparents, we had talked about your grandparents before, especially your grandfather being the planner, the navigator. And here they want to share this quirky thing about your boyfriend. But before they do, they wanted me to say, but we love him. Like, he's great. We like him. But then there's this quirky thing when he travels that we wouldn't do that. And when we came to that conclusion, my client and I think it something clicked. And now look, as I'm telling you this, I'm like, was that right? Was that accurate? That's part of mediumship work, is really working with what we get from spirit, and sort of deciphering is a very strong word, because I don't believe that spirit means to give us cryptic messages or make us work hard to understand what they're telling us. But what's very real is that the feeling spirit gave me, the feelings of, they love this boyfriend for this client. This boyfriend has a quirky travel characteristic or habit, but they like him. Simple, very simple. All the other details of what is the quirky thing, that is the part that took the figuring out, or maybe trying to like put the puzzle pieces together. But we got there. And as I'm telling you this now, I think was that accurate, but it made sense. It just makes sense. And I think another part of this whole, like, am I making this up? While there is always room for healthy skepticism, sometimes mediums who mean well can be very hard on themselves. Case in point, I'm pointing the finger at myself right now. I'm an overthinker, and I grew up with very low self-esteem, and I grew up a people pleaser. I am a recovering people pleaser, and I am working on my self-esteem, and I am way better than I was years ago, even a year ago. And I think many of you know that just hearing my podcast throughout the last 3 years. You probably heard me grow so much. And I'm approaching the fourth year of the podcast. Ay, ay, ay. It's amazing. Self esteem, believing in yourself, has a lot to do with how much you really put faith in and believe in your psychic and mediumship abilities. And this is why looking within as you're developing your abilities is so important. Working with your inner child, loving your inner child, working on the self limitations that you believe in, that you hold on to so strongly, getting out of your own way, as Hannah McIntyre so often says, getting out of your own way so that you can let it all flow. When we come from a place of fear, when we come from a place of what are they going to think if I say this to them in a reading? What if I sound crazy because I don't know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand what they mean by quirky. What if I sound crazy? What if I say something and it's wrong and it's not accurate? These thoughts come from a place of fear, a place of, I want to appear good enough. I want to be good enough. I want them to like what I'm doing. When that's not the important thing in a mediumship reading. Granted, yes, your client should like the reading if they're paying for it. I think that's ethical. But there's a difference between doing your best in a reading, like your darnest, your best for a client, and giving them their money's worth, versus doing things just to please them. Because that can cross into other behaviors, like when a client says something and you know that that's not what it is that spirit is talking about, but your client says it and you're like, yeah, that's it, just so you can feel like you got something right. That's not being genuine. You're giving the client a false sense of hope, a false sense of validation in your work as a medium. And I don't care if the client thinks they got their money's worth from it. If you're not being genuine and authentic, I think that's unethical. And you have to live with that. Not you listener. You know what I mean? Hypothetical you out there. So being genuine is such a wonderful remedy for the self-doubt. And authenticity and is so important. And being honest with yourself. Just like how I'm being honest in this podcast, saying I don't always know if what I'm saying is accurate, even if a client says it is, even if I just feel that it is. I don't know, because there's always my human brain that wants the physical, concrete proof. I want the heavens to open up and be like, Juan, we are the angels. We are the star seed angels and the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, and we're telling you, you are accurate. God's booming voice, my son, you are an accurate medium. But so much of this depends on faith. So much of it depends on faith. Faith is almost all of it. Curiosity and faith are two of the biggest skills, I think, in being a medium. And I think the more I develop, because look, I'm 4 years. 4 years? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 years into my mediumship development. And I'm always going to develop. But I'm 4 years into it. I'm proud of how far I've come. I'm proud that I've been doing my business for as long as I have and doing readings for people. I feel good about when I started charging for readings and doing them. And I still have more to learn, because to say to you right now that I am at the end of my development, I am a master at this, would be a crock of bull. Because no one has it all figured out. There's always room for growth and improvement. Always room for growth and improvement and development. And it's having that humility, having a healthy amount of skepticism, that I think helps that growth. really catapults us into that growth. Because if I were sitting here believing that everything I do is the best, it would be quite egotistical of me. And if I were to sit here saying that everything I do goes to crap, it would be it would be really unnecessary. There's no need to crap on myself. And, narcissism, and I don't know anything about narcissism from a psychological point of view. I'm not a psychologist. But ego is very interesting. Ego either inflates your personality, or deflates your personality. Ego either... I think that the goal is to use your ego to help find that balance. The ego is not bad. I should really say that. I should really reinforce that idea. The ego is not a bad thing. The ego helps us know our sense of self, but sometimes based on our upbringing, our conditioning, or the messages we hear growing up as children, our ego becomes about preserving ourselves. And we either want all the power and the attention and wanting to be told you're right and you're beautiful and you're excellent as a way of self-preservation to protect oneself. Or on the other end of the spectrum, I'm nothing. I don't deserve anything. I'm not worthy. And I personally believe, coming from personal experience, that that's also a way of protecting the self, because it's protecting the self from harm, from getting hurt. But really, there's nothing, usually, sometimes, to get hurt by. It's all the ego trying to self-preserve out of fear. So when we feel like maybe we're making it all up, or if you feel like you have a moment where you get a download or you get a psychic hit, and something happens and it's a validation, and you feel it, and then you think, wait, but maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe I am making it all up. Don't be mad at yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. That is normal. That's human. It's human. Just acknowledge that. Okay, I feel like maybe I made that up, or maybe it's something coincidental, but that's okay. That was an amazing experience. Thank you, universe, for that experience. And just keep going keep going and not until, and the next signs will come, and more experiences will come, and you might go through that again. Maybe you won't, because each time it gets easier to accept that there is something beyond you that wants to connect with you, that is connected with you, just wants you to connect back with it. Remaining open. This stuff I was not open to. I was not open to this stuff, this mediumship stuff in college. I would have said, no, I'm not doing that. That is the devil's work. And for some reason, I'm on this journey that led me to this point, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'm open to it. Way more open than I was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and maybe 10, 12 years from today into the future. I will have way less doubt than I do now. And that's saying a lot, because the doubt I have now, it's not huge at all. It's just a little voice in my head. Imagine what it could be like in 10 years if I keep remaining open and keep doing what I'm doing. And the same goes for you. Thank you for listening today. I leave the love of the universe with you. God bless you, and I will see you on the next episode. Adios. Follow the podcast, and please leave a review. If you want me to talk about a specific subject on the podcast, or you have a question for the podcast, go to juanfranciscospirit.com and go to my contact page and submit that question.